Okay, hi all. So glad you could all be here today. Congratulations to DuckDB Labs for the 1.4 release. I'm really excited about it. I really think it's great stuff. LTS release, great stuff. A couple of colleagues of mine are here as well. Thank you for supporting me. And let's get started. I only have 25 minutes, so I'm gonna try and rip through it real quickly. So this is Huey. This started basically as a pet project of mine when I heard about DuckDB. I've always been, developing stuff in the browser, developing web applications, developing data-centered applications. I work as a software engineer at EPAM Systems, but I've been in the industry since 2000 something. Always around databases, database applications, and then later on OLAP and data warehousing and business intelligence, all that stuff. So I heard about DuckDB, I think 3 years back when Mother Duck made this announcement that they got an investment round, and that was actually the first time for me that I heard about DuckDB. I started looking into it. I was really excited about having this OLAP option inside the browser, and I decided to build something with it. So I did what every developer does. They try to build your own IDE, right, for SQL stuff. And I thought like, oh, let's also try and learn React. And like after 3 months, I just abandoned it because it was terrible. 1 year later, around Christmas holidays, I took it back up again, and I went for the pivot table because that was, of course, one of those things. I was actually challenged by a colleague of mine who needed it, and he said, "Yeah, but you're talking about DuckDB all the time. Why should I care?" And I said, "Well, you should care because we can do pivot tables with it." We can get into why Excel pivot tables are also great, but why the DuckDB stuff has a place of its own. Anyway, you can find me on LinkedIn, GitHub, and on Twitter. Let's get started. So what is Huey? I put up a QR code. That's basically the GitHub repository for Huey, because Huey is an open source browser-based app that allows you to explore and analyze data. Using, it tries to be intuitive, it tries to be easy, and it tries to be fast, and it tries to be, it tries to kind of take DuckDB and the development culture around it as an example, and I try to use that example to, kind of guide my own development in building this app. We're going to go into lots of details later on, but this is really it. It's nothing really fancy, but I hope to convince you that it's nice because it works well. Whether you agree, we'll see later. Okay, so why is Huey special? Well, it's easy. So like you download it and you start running with it. There's no install or no build process or whatever. It's just static HTML and JavaScript, and of course DuckDB. So there's almost no dependencies, just like DuckDB. I have one dependency for, of course, DuckDB-Wasm, and for the icons, and that's it. There's no React, there's no Babel, it's just a static web app. It's secure because your data processing is all local and your interactions are all local. Of course, you need the internet just once to download the resources, but once that's done, it gets cached by your browser, and you can just run it, from your local machine. You can, of course, nothing keeps you from also putting it on your website and running it from your server, and that gives you some extra abilities. But it will always be able to run locally from your machine. That's just how it's built and how it's meant, and how I will keep on maintaining it. Well, it's fast. That is to say, if Huey is fast, it's because thanks to DuckDB. If it's slow, it's probably my fault. So let's just see how far we go. And of course it's free. So DuckDB, the Huey uses the same license as DuckDB, so it's MIT, which basically means you can do anything you like with it, just like you can with DuckDB. Okay, so what's the workflow? So you just start by loading some data. And the data can come from all kinds of sources, but typically it's just a file or a URL that serves a file, or it could be a DuckDB file, but it's also a file, right? So it's always a file. And basically, the Huey supports everything that DuckDB supports out of the box as well. Then, once it's got the data, it has some, DuckDB figures out what the data looks like, and Huey builds a model around it. And model sounds really fancy, but what it just means is that we just present the contents of the data, or basically the structure of the data, I should say, in a way that makes sense for a user to start exploring. And the first on the top of it is like you have, of course, the columns in your data set, but there's like all kinds of useful calculations or derivations that you can do with your raw columns. And that's what the model provides. We will go into the details later of that, but so it's like a little layer on top of your basic column metadata to make it easy to analyze the data. Now, once you've decided what aspects or attributes you want to see, you place them on a query builder on one of the axes. And you can do that either by clicking or just by dragging and dropping. And you can add some filters and you can add some totals. And when you're done with your result, because the result is all presented in this pivot table, you can export the result and store it to a file or to the clipboard and then paste it in Excel, because no application is done when you cannot paste into Excel. You can then also share your query. You can share it with your colleagues, either through a URL or through a saved query. We will show this all in the demo. We're there already. If you want to go ahead, we don't have laptops, so let's not bother with that. If you want to play this at home, you can, because there's one link for the download for the source, that you have it on your own machine. The actual GitHub project has a link to a live demo, which is basically the same source tree, but published to a GitHub Pages place. So there you just have it online, so you don't need to install anything. You just visit the link and try it from there. And then the third link is to a data set, which is a publicly available data set that we can play with. So let's try that. We'll just get rid of this presentation and go to the browser. Okay, the GitHub project itself. So we have the GitHub project over here. So it's github.com, RP Bouman Huey. And we have a couple of things here. We have the license, which is MIT. We have a bunch of releases over here, which are stable releases. And over here we have two branches, dev and main. Sometimes some stuff in between. But dev and main are the main things. Dev if you want to develop something, main if you want to check out the release version. And the link to the live demo is over here. So you can try it directly from there. So I already have it on my machine locally. If you want to do that, and if you don't trust GitHub Pages as an external source, you can just download it from over here, or use GitHub to just set up a repository and work from there. And that's what we're going to do now. So I will just open it up. So I have the tree over here on my local machine. I just go to the source directory, and I just click index.html. As you can see, we now get just a static page, just served from the file system. It loads a little bit. I yesterday upgraded to 1.4.0, so that's in there now as well. And this is the basic user interface. So we get a central toolbar, we get a sidebar with data sources. It's empty now because we don't have any. So let me just get that URL in there. I just need to put the mic down for a second. Okay, so let me just grab it over here. Should it? Okay. Yeah, this is my data set. And let me just go here. So we can just click here, or we can drag files. That doesn't matter. We can do it all. I hit the button. Oh wait, this is for files, and now I just need the URL. Sorry for that. So URL. We say OK, and we get the download interface. So it has now acquired the data from the URL, and created the data source. That's over here. But it has also now opened up the attribute pane, because that's where you can see what your data looks like. And it has now also opened the query builder. So now that we have it, we can start building a query. So we can already see this is the attributes. And these at the top level correspond to the columns in our data set. We have two special ones, count and row number, but we don't need to bother with it right now. And yeah, we can just put them on the axis. So we can click here to put it on the rows axis, the vertical axis, or we can click over here to put it on the columns axis. So let's just do that. Put it on the column axis. And now, yeah, it gets, so we see the column type and we see the values that are in that column are put on that axis over there. Let's try the other axis as well. So now we get a basic grid, but we don't see anything in the grid cells because we haven't put anything on the cells axis. And on the cells axis, yeah, in the BI paradigm, you would like to put a metric on there, something that you can count or something that you can aggregate. In reality, of course, this is not a real OLAP model. It's just a file, just a flat file. So in Huey, you can put anything you like on the cells, any aggregate. So any attribute that you see here also has all these aggregations. But right now, we will take the thing that really looks like a measure, which is like the count of the number of flight operations. And we're going to take the sum and put it in the cells. And then, of course, it will put the counts there. Okay, so this is the basic pivoting thing. Now, normally, we can now do things, right? We can flip the axis around. If we hover over the axis and, click that, it will just flip them around. Same information, different format. We can do the same with the cells, because the cell headers, the cells are, of course, in the intersections, but the cell headers are still on one of the axes. And we can flip that around as well. So from the columns, we put them now on the rows. Any way you like. It doesn't change the information, changes the format, changes the layout. Okay. Old school BI people always instinctively start dragging and dropping. And we can do that as well. So we can drag and drop or point and click, whatever you like. It doesn't really matter, right? It shouldn't, your preference should not distract from what you're trying to analyze. Now let's add some time, because time is always one of these things that, we like to see things, when did it happen? And time is one of these things. We have over here a couple of time attributes. We can tell what kind of data type it is by looking at the icon, right? And if you're not sure, you can hover over it and you see what is the data type that is inferred there. Now, if we would do that, probably we want to take the report period, and we would just add it to the axis. We can do that, but it's not very useful because you get these timestamps. It's like a huge, bunch of timestamps, and it's actually not that sparse at all in this case. But it's not very good for analyzing, right? Because you just get a lot of dates, like a very, very, very detailed overview. What you want to do is you want to analyze it in a hierarchical manner, and to do that, we have to open it up and look for derivations. So derivations are basically these calculated columns where we derive something from the data that's there and turn it into something that's more useful for our reporting needs. So in the case of timestamps, we have date fields and timestamps and time fields. In this case, we're going to look at the date fields. I'm just going to remove this one. And we're going to take some more hierarchical view of the data. We start by year. So now it gets, a little bit more useful. And we add the month. We can choose, month name, short name, month number, whatever you like. And in this way, we get, a way to drill down in the data and see where everything's at. Now that we have drilled down a little bit, it becomes useful to say okay, but how does it relate to the total again? To do that, we can just add totals. And this we do just by clicking the total toggle on the items. And now you get, totals for these things. And of course, we can do that on any of these things. And then finally, at the bottom part, we see the grand total, which is basically where all the all the data intersects at this high point. Okay. So far, any questions? Somebody, somewhere. Yes. Okay. So let me answer it by just hovering over it. Yeah. So it just does a calculation on top of the existing data. Yeah. And in a way, the aggregations, in this case sum, is also something like that, right? It's also just a calculation on top of it, but it gets aggregated that way. And of course, when you have derivations, you can also, aggregate those. Like what's the maximum year, what's the that kind of stuff, right? So that doesn't keep you. Okay. Now, finally, we want to see something else. Let me see if I can show you that. We put flight type, arrival, departure, and we have one more, domestic, international. And this one we want to put on the filter axis. I'm just going to put both values in there. So we have filtering, it's just a where clause, right? We can choose different operators. In this case, because the data type supports that, we have all these things over here. We have the list over here, which basically gives us all the values, so if we can pick them. Makes it easy to filter, right, rather than typing an expression in there. And in this case, we've included both of them, which may or not appear to be very useful, because if you filter on all the values, you're going to get all the data, right? But still, if we do that, you see that the filter axis is a little bit special, because the item has a little widget over here that we can expand it. And this means that we can build like a mini dashboard to enable or disable values and slice it, right? Yeah, now once you've built your analysis like this, the final step is of course that you get it out of there. And to do that, we have the export interface, and from here we can choose to export to either CSV or to Parquet or to SQL. So you can get the SQL query and you can put it on the clipboard. So let's just try, right? Let's just go delimited text, clipboard, and we do export. And then we just go to, well, obviously, to Excel, because that's what most users will do. And we can just paste it over there, and then we've got our data in Excel, and we can share it with colleagues. There's one thing I wanted to show you about this query building, right? We've been building this whole query in Huey. And the thing is, whenever we change something in the query, you see that URL changes, or at least the hash of the URL changes. That's because the entire query is in there. So this means that we now have a back and forward. So we can do back, and every step that we did in building our query, we can just, browse through it. And of course, we can just bookmark it. So if we just bookmark this one, done. I can just now, let me see if I can, if I just close Huey again, open a new tab, and then find it. Should be at the bottom. Yeah, here we go. So it just opens Huey again, and because it's the data from a URL, it doesn't need to actually fetch data from a local file. It can just open it directly again, and now you're back. So that's Huey in a nutshell. I'm not sure what my time is. We have 7 minutes. Okay. So basically that's all there is. And of course, I now used a small data set, just a few thousands records, a few hundreds of thousands of records. But this works with millions, and it even works with hundreds of millions. And then you start to run out of memory. But you can do this later. Yes. Question is the URL shareable? Yeah, this is a public URL with a public data set from the government open data site from the USA. So that's. Oh yeah. So I'm now running locally from my own machine, and this means that I can use it for local files, and the data will all stay on my own machine, will not get communicated outside. If you just want to do the kind of easy way, you can just deploy this on the site, or you can go to the live demo here on the over here. And actually, in the GitHub page, there's a few examples that show exactly what you mean. So here in the Getting Started, we have a couple of links over here that will take the online version. So everybody can visit this. You don't need to install anything, just visit those links. And then, it will start. And in this case, it will start it from the github.io, GitHub pages, because that's where the demo site lives. But you can just do this on your own site as well, right? There's also an API available that lets you communicate with the Huey app from outside. So you can build into your web app and push data from your website into it and integrate it with your applications, if you like. Okay. I want to very quickly go to one feature that I like a lot about DuckDB, which is like, well, we've all seen this whole craze a couple years back of what's it called again? NoSQL, right? NoSQL, everything had to be hip with all kinds of nested data types, JSON, whatnot. And the thing is, I'm not against it, but it's terrible to analyze, right? Because it's terrible. Well, we can go into the pros and cons of it, but for analysis and OLAP stuff, it's horrible in most cases because you don't know what's inside your data set, right? So it's hard to get it out. And DuckDB has a couple of features which makes it easy to work with those kinds of types. And with Huey, I try to support that and also make use of that. So I want to show you a little. It's a very simple example of a set of nested data. Wait, let me get here. No, that's the wrong one, sorry. Over here, yeah. And it represents data that I extracted from a chart. And it will look kind of like how you would expect. So it's like a big document with a couple of series, and the series is an array. And inside the array we have, the name of the series and the data points, which are like, xi coordinates, right? You can, nowadays you can open this with Excel and you can like, work a little bit with the, what's it called? This interface they have. But you can use it as well. And it will look something like this. I will just open up. Oh, this is actually the online version. I wanted to look with this one. There we go. So I just open it up. Data from the chart. Okay, we will start analyzing it. And this is what I mean why it's awful, right? Because we open up with the top level and we have basically just one column in there, which is the series. And the series is an array. We can of course get it out there because an array is just a value, right? So we can just inspect it. But it's in this format not really useful to analyze. So what we want to do is we want to at least extract the different series out of it. And to do that, you can notice, so this is an array icon. That means that we have specific derivations available for working with arrays. So we have array operations. And two of them are most useful. Well, first of all, we can just take a look at the length, right? You can see how many are there. 3. We already knew that. Now we know it for sure. We also have indices and elements. So we can just do it like this. We say, okay, give us the indices. And now we get 1, 2, 3, one index for each element in the array. And we can get the element values themselves, which is the actual data sets there. Now let me get rid of these because now these are not so useful anymore because now we have something better. We can now look at it inside. Now we see the elements are themselves structs, which is again another level. So fear not, we can just open up the element, and because it's a struct, we now have a structure folder to work with structs. In this case, we see that there's 2 fields in there, the name and the data. So let's start with the name, it's a good start. And of course we can again look at the data, but yeah, the data is again an array, right? So it's not very useful. So let us get rid of this one now. And now we just repeat it. So we just go and we say, okay, give us the data. And let's just grab the elements. So now we have the individual data points, which is still itself an array. And in this case, yeah, we know that, I mean, if you count it, you see that all these series have the same number of elements. They're all like 24 items on the x-axis and then the data points on the y-axis. So if we would want to put this into Excel at some point, what we can do is we can say, okay, we're just going to get rid of this one. And we're going to say we're going to introduce the indices of the elements. Wait, I still have to unwrap this one as well. So we're going to unwrap this one as well. And we're going to put the indices of that one there. So now we can exclude the X one because we know that's all just a series of numbers. And we say, okay, we only want to see everything that's on this axis. And if we now put that one over here on the cells, and now we can put this one over here in the columns. And now it looks like something that we can plot, right? So just export it to Excel and have fun with it. Well, there's a lot that can be said about the nested structures and about the support there is for it. There's also a lot of stuff that you cannot do because, at some point you will find some kind of complexity which is just not easy to translate to a UI like this. But the idea is, okay, so you could have done this in Excel, but you would have been in the programmer kind of mode, right? And here it's just point and click and putting stuff on the axis. So it's like a little bit closer to end users. Okay, I want to leave it at this because I think I'm over time. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. We have time for a quick question if anyone in the audience has a question for Roland.
Go ahead. The question is, can you export to SQL? Yes, that's correct. So what happens is this. In the UI, the pivot table that you see is very lazy. It only calculates what you're seeing on the screen. And we must do that because the data set could be huge and we only want to see the window that we're interested in right now. If you export, you cannot get away with that. I mean, you can, but it wouldn't be very useful. So the SQLs that we generate is not exactly the same SQL as what's behind the UI. But you have two flavors there. You can either export the raw data as rows, and then you have to do the pivoting yourself if you want to do that, or you can do the pivots yourself. And yeah, you have to be careful because if your pivot gets very large, at some point you will run out of memory. But the SQL it will give you, and you can of course, you're not obliged to run it inside Huey. You can run that on your data platform. So you can use Huey to craft a query and then copy and paste it and put it in your code. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. Let's move on to the second talk from DuckDB.